Ladies and gentlemen, now that you understand the Premiere Pro UI and you have a basic understanding inside of Premiere Pro, we can finally teach you the fundamentals, because now you actually know how the program works, you understand what the panels are responsible for, you understand how the workspaces work, you understand how all of this stuff works. We can now start teaching you how we can use the fundamentals of editing. And for that reason, over the next 3 courses, we're going to be covering text, we're going to be covering animations, and we're going to be covering audio and music, which are the 3 other things which we haven't learned, which are also fundamentals of editing. So if we analyze your skills right now as a video editor, what you're currently able to do is make a video into cuts, cut out the silences, and just kind of piece it together and then just move some different footage around. What we want to learn to do by the end of these 3 courses is create some text. So we definitely want to add text into our video and learn how to make some nice text. We're not going to dive too deep into it, but we will learn our cool text styles and text animations in future courses in this masterclass. The second thing we also want to do is we want to learn how we can create some animations, like some simple zoom-ins. We want to create some simple pop-ups, so on and so forth. And then we also want to learn how we can add in our music to make this video a lot better. So by the end of these 3 courses, you will be able to make a very, very basic video inside of Premiere Pro. And once you're able to do that, we're then going to dive in and master every single section of video editing. So with this being said, this specific course is going to be around text. We're going to just have a deep dive into text, and I'm going to introduce you to how text works inside of Premiere Pro and basically everything you need to know about text, so that in future courses later on in this masterclass, we can learn how to develop our own special text style and our own text animations. So keep in mind, in this course, you're not going to learn how to create a specific text style or specific text animations. You're just going to learn the basics of text, and we're going to create a very, very basic text style that we can use in our videos. So over in Premiere Pro, let's go ahead and import a video. I'm just in the same sequence that we've always had. I'm just going to quickly import a video just so that we could see the background and we can kind of see what's happening. So I'm going to import the same actionable step which we used to edit the last actionable step. So we're going to go ahead and import that raw video, and we obviously want to keep the existing settings of the sequence, and we're just going to zoom in and check this out. So now we've got that same actionable step video that we had. So how do we add text inside of Premiere Pro? If you remember, one of our tools in the toolbar is the type tool. So when we click on the type tool and click on anywhere on the screen, we can write out anything. So what I'm going to write is I'm just going to write out text style. Now, we type things, and when we type them, 2 things you have to know. They are typed inside of this red thing, and this red thing is called a text box. Your text box is kind of the boundaries of your text, and the more you write, the more these boundaries expand. If you already set a text box, like if I drew out a text box here and I said write whatever you want in here, then whatever I write has to only be inside of this text box. As soon as I go outside of it, obviously I can no longer see it. So text box is the first part. Now here's a few things. A text layer appears inside of Premiere Pro in this kind of pinkish green color, and it appears as what we call a graphic layer. So if I just quickly undid everything, you can see the title graphic. The reason it's called a graphic layer is because it contains whatever graphics are inside of it, and graphics are basically things like texts or shapes and whatever you add inside of it. So a text layer just appears as a pink graphic layer and has basically the same exact properties as a video layer. It appears as a video layer. It behaves like a video layer that's just on top of your other layer. Now, where exactly can you find your text in your effect controls? So as you mentioned, this is your graphic layer. That's what holds your texts. Inside of this box, this is called your text box. This is where you can write out your text. And the top left, if you go over to your effect controls, you can see a few things. The first thing you see is your vector motion. Vector motion just works the exact same way as motion. You can see we've got both, but it's just a special effect that Adobe adds to graphic layers. Okay, so if you ever added a picture, which is a graphic layer, ever added an icon, which is a graphic layer, if you ever added a shape, which is a graphic layer, all of these are going to have vector motion. And vector motion behaves literally the exact same way. Meaning if I wrote something inside of this, right? So if I go back, let's just quickly undo everything real quick. And then let's just go ahead and do this one more time. So we're going to click on T, and we're going to click on the middle of the screen and just write out text style, right? As you can see, it appears as a graphic layer, and we have text style over here. If I go to my vector motion and move the position, the whole thing is going to move, okay? So there's a few things to understand about texts. They behave a bit differently in the sense that they have their own properties up here. And the way that you can access their properties is if you go over to your effect controls, you should see under vector motion, a tab called text. So if I close off vector motion, you can see the tab as well. You should see text, and inside of it, text style. Text style is the text which we wrote out. If I change this to something else, the way I could change it is I can select my type tool, and then, we can select the type tool, and then we can hover over it. Sorry, it's not allowing us to do this for a reason. So we can select the type tool, unselect this, and I can hover over it. And when I get the red box, I can just click and type out whatever I want. So if I change this to second text style, something like this, sorry, I can't type. All of a sudden, you guys can see that as soon as I click off, it gets updated to second text style inside of here. And this specific text controls all of the variables for this text over here. So when I expand it, it kind of behaves as its own effect. It gets added inside of the effect controls panel as its own effect. And what this basically means is I can open it up and I can change everything inside from here, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. If you also want, you can have the properties panel open, because you can also use it to change a lot of things in text, which we will also be looking into. But the whole objective of this course is to teach you what all of these different settings do. Okay, so let's start from the top and run our way down, and then we're going to create it completely from scratch and create our own text style. So by now you understand that you've got a text layer, which is called a graphic layer, and the text appears in a text box, and it appears inside of your effect controls panel if you ever want to change any properties that have to do with it. So what are the properties that you can change? Well, first off, the first thing that you can change is this thing over here, and this is your font. So if you click on this, you can select from a wide variety of fonts which are already downloaded inside of Premiere Pro, right? There are so many fonts inside of Premiere Pro now. Personally, we are going to be looking into developing our own brand style and so on and so forth in future editing styles. So you guys are going to be downloading a lot of fonts. If you wonder how you can download fonts and use them, let me go ahead and show you very, very quickly. You just have to open up your browser like so. And you just have to search up something like, just look for a site like the font. Okay, the font is well known because it allows you to download any font that you would like. And let's say I really like the cool Vetica font. All I have to do is click on download, and I'm just going to download it in here for now, just so that we can see it. And when I download it, it's going to be a zip file. So all you have to do is take your zip file, right click and extract everything that's inside of it. And once you extract it, you're going to get a bunch of these different files, right? And what you're looking for is the open type font file. And so what these are, they are different variables of the font. So if I double click on this one's the regular one. If I click on the cram, you can see it's smaller, so on and so forth. So let's go and select the big one over here. All you have to do to download the font is you right click it and you click on install, and it's going to install the font on your PC. It's called Cool Vetica. And now we can basically go back into Premiere Pro and we could just search up Cool Vetica, and we are going to find it. Let's just go ahead and select it for the sake of this tutorial. The second thing which you should change, which you are able to change, is the type of the font. So as you guys notice, we only downloaded the Cool Vetica font, but if I downloaded something that has multiple types, this one actually does have multiple types, right? This font does have multiple types. You guys can see them over here. If I selected the other four and I installed them, so if I had multiple types of fonts installed, I'll go and quickly show you guys what this allows us to do inside of Premiere Pro. Let's just see if this works and if I don't need to reset. Yeah, so if I click on it, all of a sudden I can choose a bunch of different types. If I choose crammed, it's small. If I choose heavy compressed, it's compressed, right? Condensed, and then regular and italic. So you have a bunch of these different styles, right? So the first thing you could change is your font. The second thing you change is your styles. And these are kind of like the two ones that we're going to be using the most. We're really going to be varying a lot between fonts and font styles and font sizes, which we'll talk about right now. But these two are big major ones which you should keep in mind. Another thing right under it is your font size, which just controls the size of your text. And that's basically as simple as it is. You can either change, by the way, the scale of your vector motion to change the size of your text, or you can change the size of your text inside of your layer. The only difference is just that on this graphic layer, if I select it now so that you guys can see it, so I'm gonna use my selection just so you guys can see it. There it is. So select my vector motion. When I scale my vector motion down, the actual layer shrinks. Whereas if I scale my text down, the layer stays the same. And what this basically means is it's just going to help us understand how things work inside of Premiere Pro. So remember, the thing that you're scaling down, like if I'm changing the scale of my text, I'm changing my text inside of my layer. I'm not changing the entire layer size. So these are things that you won't really know why you should know them right now, but you should just know them so that in the future, when you do come across them, you'll know exactly what's happening. So with this being said, what are these buttons over here? Well, this one over here basically makes the entire text bold. Okay, that's nice and simple. This one here makes the entire text italic. This one makes the entire text full caps. This one here makes it subscript. And then this one upper script. And this one, I don't know what you call these. And this one gives it a underline. So these are just all cool text effects that you can apply right off the bat. And then if we go under font size, we have all of our placement options. So placement, you can have your text start on or align on the left side, which means whenever you write, it's going to generate from the left side to the right side, right? Whereas if I have it aligned in the center, all of a sudden, wherever I write, check this out. whatever I write now aligns, like starts from the center and expands outwards. So I can basically change this to whatever I want, and it's always going to be in the center of the screen like that. And then if I change it to the right, the exact same thing happens to the right. And then you can also align them vertically. So I usually always just go with the center, because what this means is, so if I align it to the top, whenever I go with a paragraph, you can see I always go down, right? And if I align it to the center, if I go with a paragraph, it's going to try and fit the paragraph so that the entire text is always at the center. And if I go with the top, if I do a paragraph, it's always going to go to the, okay, so in this case, it went to the bottom, but you kind of get what's happening. So I always like to align this thing, center it vertically. Okay, so always center your text in the middle and center it vertically for the best kind of results. The few other settings which you can change are the variation between letters, which just basically changes the variation of space between fonts. Sometimes I'll change like my font size, and you can notice my text isn't changing. You might be wondering, why the heck is that happening? Well, the reason it's happening is because sometimes Premiere Pro doesn't know if you have the graphic selected, your vector motion, or your text style. So all you have to do is use your text tool to highlight your text one more time, and now whatever you change is going to change and affect your text style. There we go. Awesome. So now, yeah, as you can see, there we go. Now it's working again. Awesome. So let's go ahead and change, for example, the variation in the letters. What you're going to notice is this just adds space in between those letters. So if you want a cool cinematic effect, like, you know, when they've got like that intro for a video and it's just all cool and cinematic, then you can use this, this kind of effect if you want to get that result. And then this, just, you don't need to worry about this. This changes the distances between lines. So if I basically had another line over here, right, and I didn't like how far they are, I can use this to bring them closer, or I can make them further away if I want that. What else do you have? You've got subscripts, which don't really matter, and those are the two ones which you use the most, basically. So just keep in mind, this helps you change, sorry, as you can see, running into the same issue again. So just select and double click on your text, or just click over here and you'll be good. If you change this, you can extend your font or shrink it down. And if you change this, you can extend the distance between your lines. So just keep that in mind, okay? So far, what do we know? We can change the font using this. We can change the type of font. We can make things bold, all caps, whatever we want to do. We can change the font size, the placement, where they are, and we can change their size and their line distance, so on. Now, if we go down to the stylization of the text, we've got 4 things: fill, stroke, background, and shadow. I'm going to show you exactly what these do. So all of these have a check to enable them, and they have an eyedropper to select the color, and they have a square where that if you click, you can change the color. The fill determines the color of your text. So if I click on this and I change this to red, it's going to change it to red, right? Obviously, if I click OK, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it at white. The second one is your stroke, and your stroke is very, very nice and simple. So you can use your fill, by the way, to just color your text, right? Your stroke is very simple. When you first enable it, so you have to make sure that you toggle it so you turn it on, you get a few things, right? You see your your size over here, and you see a setting over here. So first I'm gonna change the color of the stroke to red so you can see what it is. And a stroke is just a border around your text. Now, if I increase this, it's obviously going to get bigger and smaller, right? So this thing over here controls the stroke width, or how big the stroke is. Now, the reason we have a setting here is because you can either have the stroke start on the outer layer or start on the inner layer, if you wanted to take up the inside of the text like this, or you can have it on the center. So you can have it kind of do a bit of both, right? Now, I personally have always used it on the outer layer. That's just always been the best. And so you can always use your stroke, so on and so forth. The second thing you have is the background. So when you enable the background and you change its color to something like a light blue, okay, you guys are going to notice this just creates a square behind your text. And there's a few settings. The first one is the opacity, or how visible the background is. The second one is how big, or how the expansion is of the background. And the third one is the roundness of the corners. How round is the background for the text? And under that, you've got your shadow. If you enable it, that's basically just a drop shadow. You could set it to a dark black like this. You can set it whichever color, and you have a bunch of settings. The first one is how visible is it? We're going to make it really visible so you guys can see it. The second one is what angle does it hit? So you guys can see the angle is rotating. If you focus on the text over here, the angle changes when I change this. The third one is how much distance is between it and the actual layer. And the fourth one is the spread of it. So how blocky is it, or how how big does it expand beyond our layer? And the last one is the blur. So is it extremely blurry, or is it just a block? and you can choose in between these and create some pretty cool text styles. Now under this, if you keep scrolling down, you get to the transform effect inside of your text layer. So you have a transform effect inside of your text layer, which obviously does not affect your layer. It affects the text alone. So you have to keep that in mind whenever you have effects inside of your text. If you change those, they're only going to affect the text. And that is basically it when it comes down to text. That's literally it. So it kind of breaks down into a few sections. You have number one, like text settings. Number two, you've got color settings. And number three, you have font and basically just font settings. So the first one you've got is like the text settings, which is you choose your font, so on and so forth. The second one you have is your font or placement settings, which are, you know, how wide your letters are or where is it placed and so on. And then you have the stylization settings. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to quickly delete this and practice creating our own text style. We're just going to go with a basic white with a drop shadow. And this is going to be super simple. Remember, all you have to do is click on here and click on the screen. By the way, another way that you can create text is you can actually right click and go to a new item and add a, where is it? Oh, I guess you don't do it that way. I forgot how you should do it in Premiere. Either way, the best way you should do it is just use your type tool. That's just the easiest way to do it. So just click on your screen and type out text style for now. Let's go ahead and as you can see, it already applies our text style. So we're going to reset all of these parameters by clicking this reset button here, and let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is set to our, I think it's called Helvetica font. You can see we could choose between all of them. We're going to go with the regular. It didn't change my text, which you now understand. If that doesn't happen, select your type tool and then just highlight your text and then change it, just so that it understands that we are selecting our text. Now, if we select our text layer, we should be good now. I don't want it to be italic. I just want it to be regular. So I'm going to set it to that. I also do want it to be bold, and I do want it to be all caps. That would be awesome for me. Next up, we're going to change the font size. So I think I like this. This is pretty good. Let's go down to 85 maybe. And then let's set it in the center. So center align it. So whatever we write out happens from the center. And also vertically center align it as well. And the other thing we could do is also just extend these letters a little bit because they are pretty compact. And we're going to add another sentence. This is a text style. And then we're also going to bring the line distance a lot closer so that they are really close like this. And we're going to go down, leave the fill as it is, add no stroke, add no background. I'm just going to add a drop shadow like this, a black drop shadow, and I'm going to make it a bit more visible. And I'm going to make it, I'm going to leave the angle down here. I'm going to leave the distance as it is. I'm going to leave the spread as it is, and I'm just going to make it a bit more blurry. And there you go. You get a basic text style. There we go, nice and simple. And that is basically it when it comes down to creating text inside of Premiere Pro. If you guys want to see more complex stuff, you can go into here and change a bunch of things, but don't even worry about the properties. We'll talk about this stuff later. Most of the things and the effects which you're going to be using when it comes to text in Premiere Pro are all inside of your effect controls. So what have we learned today? If you want to create text inside of Premiere Pro, you have to select your type tool, click on your screen, and you're going to get a graphic layer. Inside the graphic layer, you've got your text inside of a text box. The text box settings and all the text properties are all available in your effect controls under the text section. And under the text section, you can change the font. You can change the type of the font. You can make it bold, make it full caps. You can change the font size, and you can change where the text is, like where it is aligned. Is it in the center of the screen? Is it vertically in the center? Then you have a bunch of settings that have to do with your font, right? So you can extend the font, you can have some distance in between lines, so on and so forth. And below this, you've got your stylization settings. And then under that, you have a bunch of settings that can control all the things inside of your stylization settings. So things like, your stroke, you control the distance, the background and the shadow, and a bunch of the transform settings under that. So text in Premiere Pro is really, really simple. And when it comes to text, the biggest thing we have to keep in mind is that less is more. We don't want to do something flashy. Flashy things usually scream low quality when it comes to editing. So you want to make sure that you get a taste for what does look good, and you want to keep things as minimal and as subtle as possible. And understanding how to create good text can really take your content to the next level by simply just making text as subtle as possible and as simple as possible. You can get really, really solid results. Okay. So with this being said, again, as I mentioned in this course, we're not going to be diving into your text style or creating your text style or even creating text animations. Instead, we're going to be doing this later inside of the masterclass. But for now, this should give you a very solid understanding of how you can use text and how you can change it and how you can operate with it. And you should stick around till the actionable step where we're going to be talking about how you can use this concept to create subtitles and generate subtitles for your videos. But with this being said, the next thing we are going to get into is animating and keyframes. And keyframes are the first thing an editor should learn inside of Premiere Pro, because they are going to allow you to understand a lot of things, not just about this program, but about every other program out there, like After Effects, DaVinci, whatever it is you want to use. All of these are combined with, like, all of these have one thing in common, which is using keyframes. And using keyframes is not just for editing, it's also used for sound design, it's also used for 3D modeling. Keyframes are a very, very important thing, and we're going to be diving into everything that has to do with keyframes in the next course. So I'll see you guys there.